Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at how we can add the running of MSTest to our NAnt build script. In a previous episode, we've taken a look at how we can use NUnit and incorporate the running of an NUnit test within our build script. So we thought it only makes sense to take a look at how you can do the same thing with MSTest. Now, NUnit is pretty straightforward as there's actually a built-in capacity within NAnt to run NUnit. And unfortunately, there isn't one that's built directly into NAnt to run MSTest. So it takes a little bit more effort, not a whole lot, but you need to know a couple things. So I thought I'd take a look at it, show you how to do that today. Now, the project I have open here is the same project that we've been working with the entire time on this series. And it's our image sizer. And what I've done is I basically created a MSTest project that I've taken the existing unit tests that were part of our NUnit test, and I've just ported them over. So they're the exact same 6 tests. What I've also done is I've created a new solution that has the MSTest project into it, though we can have 2 separate solutions here. So let's go ahead and take a look at our script. We have this previous script that build with test. I'm going to go ahead and rename this because I want to create a separate second build file. We'll call this with MSTest. And this will actually hold our NUnit and our MSTest in it. Now, because I've modified our solution and renamed it, we're going to want to go ahead and make changes. That way we actually run the right solution and save ourselves some pain and suffering here in a few minutes. Now, this script already is set up to compile the source, run the unit test for NUnit, but we want to actually add on the ability to run the unit test for MSTest. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and add on a test run So create a new target here. We'll create this here in a minute. So let's go ahead and come down right now, and actually let's go ahead and create this new target. So I'm going to go ahead to the very bottom here. I'm going to create a new target tag. We're going to name this test run image sizer MSTest. Did I call it MSTest? Yep, I did. And this is going to depend on our compile source and move assemblies for test. Now, in order to save some time and fat finger, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste in the rest of the logic here for the target. Now, let me move this over here. I'm going to have to move that back in a second because it won't run. But there are 2 things we need to look at when we're running MSTest. One, we need to know the pathway to the MSTest executable. And on my computer, it is at C installs Microsoft Visual Studio 9 Common IDE. If you choose the default installation location, it's going to be C Program Files Microsoft Visual Studio 9 Common IDE. You do need to have Visual Studio installed on the box that runs MSTest. I personally have not come across a solution where you can just simply run the MSTest exe. So just as an FYI on your build server. Once you have this property set up, you need to create an exec command. And this will tell NUnit to execute this thing. It's essentially doing a command line call. And we're going to tell it to, here's the path to MSTest, give it the name of the executable. And then you need to provide some command line switches. No logo here. We don't really want all the MSTest information in terms of authors and all that fun stuff. It's just a waste of time. The next one is test container. This will actually tell us the individual test or file we would like to run our tests through. And you need to give it the pathway to this / the DLL name. And then the second one we're going to use here is the results file. MSTest, once done, it wants to create all the results of the run into a file. And the default naming convention is your assembly that's testing.trx. Now, if you don't want your results in here, there's a switch for that called no results. And if you'd like to get information on all the command line switches, because there's 8 or 10 of them, there is a decent page out on MSDN that gives all of them and the various usages for them. So once we've created this target, we're pretty much done, except for we need to make one more change up here. We have a target up here that will actually move our assemblies from each of the individual locations into a common directory so that we can compile them and run them all in one spot. So let's go ahead and rename this MSTest bin, and we call this MSTest. And then all we need to do is copy paste our copy command. And this will allow us to basically just move our DLLs over so we can run them in one seamless place. So let's go ahead and take a look at this, and let's run this. So I've got my command prompt here, and as we've seen in the past, we'll just run this from the command prompt. So to do this, I need to go out to my tools directory, NAnt exe. We'll give it our build file command. This will tell NAnt which build file to run. We'll call this build with MSTest.build. And the switch or the target we want to run is just simply build. So now we have our command. Let's go ahead and hit enter. And it looks like I fat fingered something real quick, so let's come back in here and let's fix this. Let's try that all over again. Now, one thing I want to point out, you see how we got this little error telling me invalid switch? The reason for that is NAnt doesn't like it if you do control breaks on these and do new lines. So let's try that again. By the way, it took me quite a bit the first time I ever encountered that to understand what it was complaining about, because to me it's just white space. But to NAnt, apparently it's just a little bit more than white space. So now that I've fixed my carriage return issue, you can see that my MSTest results, and they all did pass, and that it did create a results file in my output directory with the name of .trx. And if we bounce over to my output directory, you can see there's a file here, .trx, that will contain my information that I'm looking for. So just to recap, running MSTest within NAnt is very straightforward, very easy. It's not much more difficult, if any more difficult, than running NUnit test. Basically what you need to do is know the pathway to the MSTest.exe on the build machine, and then essentially just give it the command line arguments. The ones you're going to want to pay attention to is the test container, which is the DLL which needs to be tested. That is the switch here. And then the results file switch, which will tell MSTest how to output the results into a file for you. So I hope you learned something, and until next time.